Hi folks, and welcome back to the Sketchup tutorials. In this video, we're going to be looking at the menu bars and just learning the layout of the Sketchup website. So the first thing you'll notice up here is our name of our 3D model, which we can just click and change. We have our menu bar, which gives us a couple different options, which we'll talk about later in terms of, being able to download these or to save them or even to import or export. So if you want to import models into SketchUp or export them to other software, that's totally possible too. Now, on the left side, we have an array of different tools. We have our search. So if I want to search, let's say for the rotate tool, I can do that here, or the rectangle tool. You'll notice whatever I want to search, I can find right here. Now, we're not going to use too much of it since we're going to be learning a lot of them and we're going to access them through the toolbar and also with using shortcuts. So just as a heads up, we're not going to use that too much, but I just wanted to let you know what it was. On the left side, you'll notice that we have a number of tools. Some of them have these little arrows, and all that means is that it has a submenu. So it gives you a couple different options. So that's pretty neat. On the right side, we have a number of tools, some of which can help us, but they're also just generally items that we can use for other things. So for example, we have a 3D warehouse. We'll talk more about that later, but basically you can find objects that other people have created. And then we have components. We'll talk more about that later as that's an advanced item. Material. So once we start building our model home, for example, this is quite useful. And etc. Some lighting and some different viewing options. So if you want to make it look a little bit more realistic. So when we build our house, we'll do some scenic perspective views with some sunlight and creating some shadows. It looks really neat. And so we'll explore some of these later, but these aren't directly related to 3D modeling. They're just more like an accessory for SketchUp. All right, so let's get started with our first tool up here. And if you press spacebar, that's the shortcut for the selection tool. The selection tool does exactly what it sounds like. It allows us to select objects. So here I selected this surface, and I can also select edges. I can also select objects like this dude right here. And he looks a little bit different because he's a grouped component, and we'll talk more about that later. I know I mentioned it a little over here with components, but that is something that's a little bit more advanced, so let's not worry about it. Just know that the selection tool allows us to select different objects. Just know that the selection tool allows us to choose objects, and so that's really useful for when we need to model or manipulate certain parts of our 3D models. The next thing is the eraser tool. Now, this eraser tool does exactly what it sounds like. It takes something and it erases it. So if I erase this edge, it'll delete the top and side surface. And the reason why is because it needs to have an enclosed surface or plane in order to fill in the face. So basically, yeah, it got rid of that. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You can also just select an object. So if I want to select, let's say like this edge, and then I can do right click erase, same thing. It allows me to do that, choose this line. So that just kind of saves a step, I guess. But you can do whatever you'd like with it. The next one is the paint tool. Now this one's kind of neat because it allows us to paint our objects. So let's say with what we have here, or to make this a little bit more complete, what I'm going to do is press the magic undo key. So if you're on a PC, it's Control Z. Press that a couple times and let's bring back our cube or rectangular solid. If you're on a Mac, it's Command Z. It's the magic undo button and it's very helpful. Now let's paint our bucket. Let's go with a orange. And let's paint two sides orange, two sides yellow. And let's go blue on the back and bottom. There we go. All right, so basically we just use the paint bucket tool, and then we have the little search here. It basically allows us to look at other materials, which if you notice here, it's chosen materials. This is a little bit more, not necessarily advanced, but it's just not necessary right now. When we start building our house and needing different textures, this will be super useful. But if you'd like to pause the video here and just kind of play around, feel free to do so. For now, I'm just going to minimize that and we're going to move on. So the paint dropper tool over here is called the sample material. And let's say I liked this dude's, let's say like this red or this orange. and I wanted to paint it. So if I select it, it allows me to use that same color and apply it here. And since it's the same color, you'll notice that they're all the same. But that's what that tool does. Next tool, the line tool. So the line tool is really neat because it allows us to do and create separate surfaces if we wanted to. So for example, if I move my mouse along this top edge, you'll notice that at a certain point, it'll do that. So watch it closely. And as it moves, it'll just snap to the midpoint. If I snap here and I just move my mouse, you'll notice that I get these like different colored lines. And what it's doing is it's basically aligning to the different axes. And since I want to draw from one midpoint to the other midpoint, or from the top to the bottom, I'm going to align it with the blue line and click. Now I'm going to press spacebar to get out and choose the selection tool. And what it does is it allows me to split that front face into two. Now this can be useful for a number of different things, but for the sake of our video, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to press P, which is push pull, and it allows me to push pull this out a little bit. All right, neat. So I've done that. That looks pretty cool. And to wrap up this video, we're going to choose the final submenu of this, which is the freeform. So the freeform sounds exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to start clicking and then just waves and finish on the edge. And that does exactly what it sounds like it does. It allows you to freeform and to freestyle in SketchUp. So I'm going to press the spacebar to get out of it. To go to the selection tool, I'm going to select this surface. I'm going to push pull this up a little bit. Oh, wow. Pretty neat. So the freeform tool gives us some customizability, and it's our first tool that allows us to kind of freehand something. So that's pretty neat. I think it's a pretty neat tool. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. In this video, we learned a bunch, so feel free to take some time, kind of play around. Don't worry if you make a mistake or you mess up. Remember, you have the undo key. But yeah, just kind of play around. Feel free to play with the paint bucket. Erase some surfaces, and if everything, goes well, you can save it and as your own design. But otherwise, what we're going to do is in the next video, we're going to learn some more tools that will help us to build some pretty neat things, and that will ultimately lead to our first kind of like mini project. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next one.